everything.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, is this what we're going to do?
No, it's fine. I just had to get that out of my system.
Yeah, there's been some different priorities. I know NA prioritizes the block a lot higher than Europe.
Yep.
Europe has been a lot heavier on Rakan and Thresh, whereas recently I feel like NA has gotten a little bit more on that train, but is more towards Tahm Kench and Braum. More interestingly, though, I feel like G2 has been a little bit lost in the pick and ban phase for a lot of the summer split, even if they had good drafts in the spring.
Jed, we all agree with you. G2 Esports said it themselves as well. Not really finding the form, not understanding the meta. I think week 5, they did kind of adapt. We saw some more tanks coming in, more CC, less about just winning lane. This pick and ban phase right here, you see Lee Sin on your screen from Svenskeren. It is not banned away by G2 Esports, something we have seen in North America quite a lot. And Svenskeren most of the time will then grab Lee Sin for himself when it is available.
Yeah, he has been 10-2 on Lee Sin, as you can see there, and 6-5 on other champions, which is pretty notable. But at the same time, TSM doesn't think they need to rely on it. It's just kind of ended up that way, since I feel like he's way better on Lee Sin than he is on any other champion.
Let's see, Lee's open, not normally a first pick for G2 Esports. They're looking at one of the remaining mid laners, potentially with LeBlanc and Talia gone. And they do lock it in very early on. We see this from Perks.
Yeah, well, Syndra is also a champion that Bjergsen has been willing to blind pick in a lot of different situations. It also kind of blocks your Orianna play, and the champions that most people will play into Syndra, like the Fizz or the Echo, do put you into a little bit of that split push playstyle, which is something TSM hasn't been very comfortable running this year.
They could just take Galio mid if they want to, and just play it against the Syndra, which is obviously a matchup that's fine for Galio. Obviously right now every single Reddit analyst is mad, because if this becomes Bjergsen's Galio mid lane, it didn't get a lot of fans, even though it's actually perfectly fine.
A, it didn't get a lot of fans, but B, it also got nerfed on patch 7.13. There were pretty substantial nerfs to his wave clear in the full tank build, which is actually the build you want to go against Syndra.
We're going to see the Elise locked in over the Lee Sin for Svenskeren despite his success, and G2, they can just go to Rek'Sai if they wanted to.
Yeah, and this explains why G2 didn't want to ban away Lee Sin. They had a complete different first pick in mind, so they kind of probably predicted that Elise would still be the go-to pick for TSM. I think Rek'Sai is an interesting choice here. It's very common, you see this early on, but obviously something we've talked about with the NA casters is not a lot of success around the world, or at least in EU and NA, when it comes to Rek'Sai.
And that Yasuo hover, just a little bit of a troll from Perks. Had a lot of fun with the NA casters while we were at MSI. Gonna pivot away and lock in the Braum. So Miffy gonna have a comfortable support in that bottom lane. One of the preferred supports on 7.13 as well.
Yeah, I think Braum is one of the best supports on this patch, and it's pretty safe to pick blind right here. Wouldn't be too surprised if TSM ends up going with Tahm Kench before the break right here, just to match roles and also get that so they don't ban him.
Well, does that set us up for potential AD carry bans or solo laner bans in phase 2, knowing that Galio is still taking like a flex?
I mean, I think a lot of times you see top lane bans come in right now, like things like Renekton and Fiora that can be really hard to deal with if you get a bad matchup top lane, tend to get removed when you have this kind of setup. But of course, if it is a planned Galio top, which I'm not too expecting, then yeah, you might just see pure top lane bans from TSM, but I don't think that's necessarily needed.
Yeah, the one bit of flexibility that TSM has here is that they can run that Galio in mid or top lane, whereas Syndra most definitely has to go in the mid lane. And usually when you see these compositions with the Galio, you do want to go with a much higher damage top laner, considering things like Elise or Tahm Kench are not adding that much damage. So Haunter needs to be relied on for a lot of damage, which means G2 should be banning some of those carry lane bully tops.
So with the double lift as well missing his AD carry, we saw Jhin being picked in week 5, even first picked by TSM over in North America. That was also paired with Tahm Kench in some of the games. Could be a go-to choice for double lift, and then you can still last pick either top or mid to save the flex for as long as possible. If you are G2 Esports, like with banning Gnar, I'm looking at Renekton. But TSM also looked at Renekton and removed it.
Yeah, I mean, this, to me, signals that Haunter wants to play something like Fiora, because Renekton is one of the things that you're okay taking into Fiora, and they want to be able to get going in that top lane. Or they're just waiting for an Echo mid lane, and they're going to throw that Galio top. They still have that flexibility.
Kled is also an option. We have to remember with Horns up in the top lane, valued very highly last week by TSM. But I think here in Europe, a lot of top laners feel like there's a lot of fine matchups against Kled, so you're not really afraid of the blind pick Kled coming in.
I think it's going to be Trist. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is interesting because I did talk to Doublelift about his Jhin pick, and he says they picked it because they see other teams do really well with it, not because they are necessarily good at it. But the Trist is something that he thinks is OP right now, and that not that many people play. Plus, it does work well with Galio protection.
I do wonder if Fiora blind pick is actually an option here for G2 Esports. You've already taken away different top lane matchup like the Renekton, even though it is a skill matchup. Some top laners don't really want to play it if you're against Elise, because obviously like Elise Renekton is the thing no one wants to play against ever. Otherwise, they do need a frontline tank, which is what they're kind of lacking on the side of G2.
Yeah, if they lock in the Gragas, I think that's quite a good pick, as long as they don't let whatever top lane carry TSM would go with carry over, just because having the Braum to protect Sven's Kog'Maw, I think, is huge. And that's actually a very nice team composition. Good front line, good CC, and a great carry.
I'm just scared of Fiora coming in here from TSM. I think that could be a super good pick with Galio in the mid lane. You have AP as well coming from Elise. So I think actually could be very well-rounded comp with Fiora getting a fine laning phase. Kennen is something that's been actually now nerfed a little bit or changed a little bit, and it, in the end, becomes Java. Good old top lane where there are like 20 viable picks right now. You can just throw them out left and right. Everyone has different opinions on what you need to play.
Caught a little bit off guard of that Java in the 4th pick from Hornsa. Has played it twice in the split already. 1 win, 1 loss. What do we think of these two team comps? Jat, you've summarized the G2 comp relatively well. What are you seeing from TSM?
Yeah, well, I do like the G2 team composition more right now, but for TSM, I feel like this is something where they almost have to be lane dominant. You have the Jarvan and the Galio, which when ahead is a nearly unstoppable initiation because you Jarvan ult and then Galio ult in there while people are stuck in the Cataclysm. But if you don't have enough damage, you're basically going to be initiating to your own demise. So I think it's very important for TSM to get an early lead if they're going to run this team composition.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really looking at that mid game from them with Tahm Kench ulti and Galio ulti. Like, you're extremely mobile as a composition to kind of move around and force some of these skirmishes within Jarvan and Elise as kind of your main engage in that sense. I think just the scaling on the side of G2 with the tank top lane plus, of course, a hyper carry for Sven is something in the late game that's going to be really good for G2 Esports. And they kind of tried this at MSI where they said, you know what, TSM, we don't want to talk about 40 minutes. We just want to go to 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and then try and win the game. And it did work, but it was risky. It was very risky. It was a 1-1.
It's a very strong term. Ladies and gentlemen, for the entirety of Rift Rivals, jump onto Twitter and use that hashtag NAWin or hashtag EUWin. Let's see who will draw first blood as the 2 Spring Split champions take to the Rift for one more time. TSM G2 in 2017 are at 1-1. Somebody gets an advantage today. And even in Berlin, Germany, the North American squad has the crowd support.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for this event, Quickshot, because normally we get these really small tastes of the EU versus NA rivalry, which is so heated. I mean, just at MSI, we got to see EU versus NA twice, 2 games. We're going to have 6 EU versus NA games today, 6 tomorrow, 6 the next day. We might overdose on EU versus NA, but it's going to be fun.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if one side gets extremely mad or anything. But first game here for G2 Esports and TSM, I think. Interesting story with G2 Esports. If you have not really watched them since MSI, where of course they really peaked and made the final, not been the same G2 we've seen in the first few weeks in the EULCS. They took a break, been behind on the meta, been struggling as a team to kind of figure out how to play. And I think now they actually enter Rift Rivals as probably the weakest of the 3 EU teams.
I'm glad you're getting the excuses out of the way right off the bat.
Hey, I'm trying to get everyone up to date here, Jad. I'm trying to be a nice guy.
I do agree with you. G2 has kind of had that MSI leg. I think something similar happened to COG last split, and even listening to some of the things G2 has been talking about, it's the same story. They say they came back, they had a week before the summer split, they were so polished with the meta back at MSI that they took a really long time to adapt to the summer split meta. And for a team like COG, they actually never got back to that point in 2016 from where they were at MSI. So G2, obviously you said their last week in the LCS did look a lot more like G2, CC heavy team compositions, lots of tanks in the front line, and they've gone with something similar this game.
I want to talk about this quick leash we see right here. There's something actually I've noticed a lot in North America.
Yeah.
Where you start your Raptor camp, but you don't actually fully kill the Raptor camp.
Yeah, this is something that I saw Phoenix 1 do very early, and I was wondering if European teams were going to end up doing it, because if not, I would think it would be an advantage for North American teams coming in here. As the blue side team, that jungler gets pretty much a full camp advantage on them. And Trick, even though he didn't kill the big raptor, if he clears Wolves, Blue, and Gromp, he still hits level 4.
Or what he can do is actually rush level 3 and then gank top lane very early. This is one of the benefits of this leash and something some of the teams are trying to figure out, you know, how do we deal with it? Another option, if you want to do this in solo queue, is you do one experience quint and then you get this leash here and you just go after you killing, you know, the raptor cam or most of it, red buff, and you go kill the Rift Scuttler. And then you look for super early gank as a jungler. He's already top lane now, a little bit later than the 235 we're normally looking at when you're doing this red buff leash. But he's saying, you know what, I'm not going to gank yet. I'm just going to fully clear my jungle.
Well, Hauntzer did get that ward, so I imagine Expect would have called out the ward. He's still going to hit level 4 extremely quickly, and junglers are on different sides of the map here. So I'm a little interested in what Svenskeren's doing here. They've kind of called out the jungle path now that they see the Krugs are available. Basically, if Svenskeren makes that move and the Krugs are gone, they know Trick would have done a 3-camp and recall. So now they should be able to predict his general position on the map.
I mean, they're reading the situation.
Well, Mithy's reading double lift. Devour comes down from Biofrost and stun connects. Mithy and Sven happy with the trade thus far. Not going to commit further as the Caustic Spittle tags double lift. And look at the minimap. Svenskeren's around. The shenanigans aren't over yet. Look for the cocoon. Svenskeren needs to fire a cocoon. It's flashed away from. Has Sven and Mithy escaped?
Yeah,
really hard here
to pull off.
I really feel like they should know that also Elise is on the bottom side. Obviously, they were pretty far back, but they still lost that flash because when you're making the play on top side, Elise can't really do Raptor Cam red buff into her. Crooks on the top side. So you know she's going bottom lane, and that's a little bit odd that Sven and Mithy ended up actually not having any sort of information, or at least early on, to then dodge the gank. They do have a ward place now.
Yeah, I will say, though, that G2 was playing very well back in the lane. So, yes, Sven did have to burn flash. He may not have even had to if it would have landed. There's a chance they can survive that with the Braum. So, I do feel like they were playing the lane pretty conservatively because they did not have jungle pressure, and it is just the flash that Sven loses.
Well, good to see Sven's flashing this time around at MSI. He didn't flash a couple of engages from TSM that ended up hurting him. Let's look at the TSM side a little bit because we talked about the G2 struggles in summer coming back from MSI. Team SoloMid currently second in the North American LCS. 7 wins, 3 losses. Is it fair to say a slow or shaky start to the split and ramping up over time, Jax?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say it's been an uninspiring start. A lot of the games they win, they don't win convincingly, or even the best of 3s. You can see the game win-loss at 16-7. So neither of these teams, I think, hit their full stride yet.
I think TSM, especially week 1 and 2, like very shaky. Week 3 and 4, they started winning a lot of games in a row. It was actually a fairly impressive streak they were on. And then obviously they lost to C9 here week 5 before then winning the next series against Immortals. So a lot of people, I feel like from North American side, are somewhat hyped about TSM, but not like we saw, you know, going into Worlds last year where people felt like they were looking super good. Double though, trading with Sven.
Oh, a lot of damage back and forth. Devour comes out. Sven cannot flash to chase. Ends up being very close, but Doublelift escapes with his life.
Yeah, Summoner Spell Discipline there. Both support saving exhaust, both ADs saving heal. Really a close laning phase so far. Sven having to play without his flash technically gives TSM a little bit of an edge, but that doesn't actually make you do more or less damage in those trades.
Yeah.
If they can return gank it, they might be able to pick up a kill, but Svenskeren is topside right now. So is Trick. Both junglers up here fighting each other. Have to remember double TP on TSM in case a fight breaks out in the bottom lane as well. Very easy for Jarvan with ulti to get onto him. Top lane now is the focus.
Yeah, Trick did sneak past Svenskeren without him seeing. So this is a gank where Hauntzer will be going aggressive first, and this is the right setup for a counter gank if G2 wants it.
First blood is on the cards. Knockup finds nobody, but Svenskeren is unburrowed. Cocoon lands. First blood is going to be available and picked up by Hauntzer. Svenskeren is not going to die. He sinks the fangs in. Finally,
so fighting.
To Expect gets 6 as well. The barrel comes back. The minions are working in his favor. Body slam finds a target. Hauntzer's running for his life. Flashes to safety.
Smart by Hauntzer in the end, saving that flash. He knew, okay, I need to just dodge the barrel from Expect and I will survive. So he gets out, but 1 for 1. First blood in favor of TSM.
Yeah, and the positioning was actually heavily in favor of G2 right there, but what ended up happening is Expect and Trick were both in the brush with which Hauntzer flag and dragged into. You don't actually want to group up for this flag and drag. Everyone level 5, but he gets both of them with the initial set of damages, and then Svenskeren is able to repel after landing his cocoon, buying enough time for Hauntzer to hit. Then he lands his Cataclysm, but Svenskeren's got no flash and no repel.
Yeah.
There's a turret on the other side, so like, what is he really going to do? Tries to edge a little bit of damage in throughout the Cataclysm, but then expect hit 6 off that kill, and kind of turns it around.
So Hanser instantly TP'd back to lane. Expected done that much earlier, which means the TP advantage will go in favor of G2 in a few minutes, which can then make it very easy, of course, for Sven to get his flashback up. And then maybe if you are G2 Esports, you can actually start trying to make a play around bottom side. But it does require Perkz as well to leave this mid lane. And despite the nerfs to Galio's early wave clear, he's still able to do more than fine in this lane.
Yeah, of course, this mid lane has been fairly non-interactive thus far. Both Bjergsen and Perkz access to their ultimates. Talking about some of the first backs, double lift BF sword to Sven's Vamp Scepter and Longsword. And we'll take a look at how these bottom lanes continue to progress. Sven's flash is almost available as both duos get closer to level 6, and G2 already trying to clear out the wards, clear out the scuttle, get a little bit of control on the sort of south side of the map.
Yeah, and with the Galio, the aid that TSM can add to the bottom side is greater than that of G2, so it will be difficult for G2 to make aggressive plays, which is why it's also important that they get so much control over the river right there, because if they are going to go aggressive, they want to have as much certainty as possible that it at least isn't a 3-on-3 where a Galio can turn the tables.
We take a look at Trick right now. One of the changes once again here on 7-13. It's of course Barmy Cinder, a bit better now for junglers in the early game, and he's going for that Cinderhulk Greg side. We see some people go Warrior Enchant, some people going Cinderhulk. Should be then a Tiamat coming in as well from him, just to again make sure he can actually deal some damage and also power farm in this jungle here. So early, Barmy Cinder increasing his clear in the jungle, benefiting from the new patch.
Yeah, we'll see what itemization decides to go to next. Looking at the minimap, all of the vision from G2 from that river clear gives them a lot of control down there. And Double Lift, one of the more outspoken NALCS players coming into Rift Rivals. I'll talk about that in a moment.
He has to wait now.
Because all of a sudden, the barrel comes out. That's a good stun into the wall. Cataclysm comes down, but Haunter's got no flash. And G2 make that look easy.
Really clean gank. Specifically expect chaining the stun after his ultimate, giving Trick time for the knockup. There was so much chain CC right there. And Jarvan in lane uses his spells a lot for his harassing pattern. Haunter barely not having them back up in time to get away. So just a strong gank there by Trick and Expect.
Sven Skaren trying to set something up in the river. Mid lane rather. Durant comes out, gets the cleanse, and Bjergsen maintains some semblance of pressure in this lane, continuing to shove it down. Take a quick glimpse down bottom. By the way, Double Lift is up 12 CS to Sven as he turn around the engage. Keep choking down. There's the Devour. We've seen this trade pattern time and time again. It's not over though.
Couple of things. They took a bad trade, but they also know cleanse is down. So if Bjergsen flashes for the taunt, they're going to try and get a gank with Elise.
That's a flash over the wall. Follow flash from Bjergsen. Taunts come out. Winds of War and the Cocoon. Team SoloMid get their first kill in the mid lane. Sven is the target of the bomb, and as we tick over 10 minutes, plus 12 CS advantage for Double Lift. Biofrost is about to get stunned up by the passive from Mithy.
G2's bot lane, though, they have to back away because they know Bjergsen and Sven Skaren already left the mid lane. I really like this style from Sven Skaren. We see quite a lot in NALCS as well, where early focus around Bjergsen in the mid lane, even on things like Galio, where normally, yes, he's not going to be your main carry, but the fact that you can set up that play twice, one forcing the cleanse and then actually getting the kill. Super good setup from TSM.
Yeah, and I think Trick should have been there. His Raptors are up soon. He was down clearing Krugs. Knowing the way TSM plays, when you're down a cleanse on Cinder against a Galio who didn't have to burn his flash, that return gank is coming. And with the way they dove through the turret, I think the counter gank could have been quite strong.
I actually feel like we see this quite often from G2, but let's talk about it after, because top lane, 3-man.
Well, Expect's just gonna die. Heroic entrance into the taunt and a Justice Punch to secure the kill. TSM with a strong advantage.
Yeah, so in the start of the split, when TSM played Galio, it looked like they were without a purpose. Here, they're immediately playing around their strengths. But G2's got a brain too. They're going where Galio isn't, down bot side.
Do you have to remember double TP from TSM? They're using one right now from the fountain. Jarvan still didn't use his. Bjergsen is here for the wave clear.
Yeah, Perkz has joined the fight. Tower First Blood also going to go the way of Team SoloMid. This is going to be nearly a 2,000 gold lead for the North American Spring Champions.
It's just very good communication from TSM after getting the advantage mid, knowing, okay, now we can make a play topside because they also saw Trick on the bottom side of the map. And then suddenly, it's a kill top lane into a tower, and you instantly send the one guy who can wave clear, the Galio, to the bottom lane.
And gentlemen, for about 2 minutes, I've been trying to talk about this AD carry matchup.
It's not about the AD carries right now.
And it's not. The game is being played on every other lane. But very quickly, because we do have some of those numbers, Double Lift plus 12 CS over Sven. And in the NALCS, he averages plus 7. Typical, as I tried to talk about it. And there's going to be another gank. Sven Skaren, let's see the Cocoon flash. Is sidestepped. Perkz read him like a book.
It's actually funny because Svenskeren tried to walk into the lane and be kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to flash for you. I'm just going to walk right back out. And then, bam, he goes for the flash. Was well read here by Perks, though, with the boots.
Yeah, definitely over-aggressive there. Also, the early Mercury treads trying to make the CC chain much more difficult for TSM. The last gank was created by Bjergsen getting the taunt off by Galio. Not a very long duration taunt, and then landing the cocoon. But the more Merc treads you have, the more you can juke around, the harder it is to chain those CCs.
Now, what we see in the mid lane here is something we've seen quite a lot in the EULCS as well, where teams are trying to punish Perks early on in the mid lane by ganking him a lot, because I actually feel like Trick and Perks' synergy has not been too great after MSI. We did even see some issues during MSI between them, where Trick is not always where Perks needs him to be, and the other way around. So it's actually rare we see that combination of Perks and Trick that we used to see like a year ago happen all the time from G2 Esports. Svenskeren and Bjergsen definitely more on the same page. And we see that in this game as well with multiple ganks around mid.
Yeah, Team SoloMid, 3 kills to 2. They've got the tower at the cost of that Cloud Drake. And if you look down the list, Team SoloMid with a strong early game yet again against G2. Trick's going to get caught by the cocoon. Devour's available. Stand behind me gets used, as does the Source. Now Svenskeren is the target. He jumped in with the repel, gets killed by Sven. Support comes in for Team SoloMid. Bjergsen decides not to save Svenskeren.
In the end here, TSM going a little bit too deep, thinking they can one-shot Trick. We've also seen that play quite a lot, I feel, with Svenskeren trying to go in and actually finish a target, and in the end, Trick just flashes away. So, yeah, both teams here in the early game trying to be very active with the junglers, and we've seen now some good moves and then some shaky moves.
Yeah, definitely some over-eager play right there. TSM did have Haunter in the back, which was great if G2 was going to aggress on TSM, but do not blindly chase into the dark and scary jungle, especially when you're AP Elise.
Yeah, and also when Doublelift is sitting in the lane, bot lane, and the enemy AD carry, he's missing. Where could he be? Oh, he's right there. He's ready to take the fight.
Yeah, this could also be turret.
But look at the supports on the minimap. Team SoloMid coming in. Abyssal Voyage is going to deliver Svenskeren and Biofrost. Sven is the target, but it's Trick and Mithy taking all the damage.
Expect is here.
Just 2. Here comes Expect. Needs to use the barrel
reset hard.
Gets rid of Doublelift. Haunter locks Sven inside the Cataclysm as Bjergsen takes him down. That's a double kill for Bjergsen. Cocoon on the back end secures another kill for TSM.
We talked about how Tahm Kench and Galio together, with the mobility they have, they can set up some of these plays here where G2 will maybe not expect it. And after they actually punished Svenskeren for being too aggressive, they pushed for that one tower. They saw it right in front of them, but Perks, of course, unable to join. And then suddenly, Tahm Kench ulti into a Galio ulti, and everyone from TSM is in the bottom lane.
Yeah, the timing of that gank was perfect for TSM. Also using the globals so well. They've been great at using things like Rise Ultimate and Talia Wall, and this is just another example of that. So Tahm Kench comes in with the Jarvan, then they immediately get the Galio in there. So 3 people essentially teleporting into the middle of the lane. Expect tries to match, but he's too slow, and Perks also isn't there. So TSM had 5 people there from the beginning, whereas for G2, it was 3, and then slowly 4, and then the 5th, and never is it an even-numbered fight. They end up losing 4 people and the turret. A disaster for G2.
It's one of those moments as a team where instantly on the comms you're just like, oh, Tahm Kench ulti.
Oh.
How do we forget about that? How do we not think about it? Then the Galio, of course, joins in right after. TSM actually had that control ward placed very early on their own blue buff, just to make sure that, you know, Bifrost can actually ult from there if needed. And of course, he knew no one was going to spot him.
And these are some of the conditions we talked about in Champ Select for TSM, where if they get ahead, they can just throw themselves at G2, and it will be very difficult for G2 to disengage. Luckily for Sven, he saved his flash, because if the Kog'Maw flashes down in the late game, Jarvan ults in, Gallo comes in afterwards, and there is no surviving that, because it is just a tremendous chain of CC.
That's what I call a small win for G2. Yeah, you lose like 3 or 4 guys, but your AD carry save flash.
It means he's not going to get insta-gib for the next 5.
That's true.
Oh, ever the optimist, Jet. I appreciate that here on the desk, as G2 were struggling in their opening game. Harkening back to MSI, G2 were down on average 1.6k gold by 20 minutes.
That's it?
They're around 3,000 more than that now.
Yeah. But against TSM, in both of those games, at certain points, G2 was down 8,000 or more gold and was in position to win both of those games by the end of it. So this is incredibly similar to the games we saw TSM versus G2 at MSI, where once TSM reached this point, they didn't know what to do, and G2 just scaled up to win.
Luckily for TSM, there's a new objective we didn't have during MSI, the Rift Herald, that you can use to actually say, well, maybe we should get that mid lane tower down. Let's get some help. That's what they're trying to look for here. Meanwhile, Honser.
Stun needs to find Honser, and it does not. Perks doesn't even pull the trigger. TSM are going to be able to use the Rift Herald to accelerate their lead as G2 continue to struggle. I mean, just look at some of their other stats here in the summer split. They barely get first bloods, 30%, 8th in the league. They get a low amount of Barons thanks to their losses and struggles. Down only 100 gold against EU teams, but apparently NA greater than EU as we open up Rift Rivals 2017.
I mean, this is why I was saying to everyone earlier that
Making
G2 Esports,
excuses.
I was preparing it because now it actually fits really well. They have still been struggling a lot here in Europe. Still feel like TSM has actually just played really well in this game here, using the Galio and Tahm Kench so effectively to create so many different plays. And Bjergsen right now, 3-0-3, even getting some Dark Seal stats in there. So basically he's saying that buff to the AP ratio on my Q, yeah. Galio got buff, boys. Didn't get nerfed.
The 9 Dark Seal stacks coming in huge. And this is Parth holding up a middle finger to the people that said they shouldn't be practicing Galio, because clearly
damn, boy,
the practice was worth it.
Well, definitely working out. Trick decides to try for the Dragon Force to flash out. So he's at risk of being instigated. Got that Cinder Hulk and the Merc trades and not a lot else. Currently thrift shopping at the moment.
If you're on TSM, Trevor, you look at this mid lane and you say, this tower is actually going to die, almost going to fully die to a charge of the Rift Herald itself. If you ever leave it with your wave clear, which is perks, it's all going to die. Honser is fine. He's baiting the team away from mid lane. He's like, come on, Svenskar, get in that mid lane, place the Rift Herald, get the last outer turret. We're going to have 3 lanes we can push deep in. We have Tahm Kench ulti to go from mid to whatever lane we need. They just want this mid lane tower down, but obviously with Perks sitting there, trying to stop it.
It's not happening, is what it means.
He's on his way now, because Perks is recalling.
Yeah, I'm looking at Svenskar and wondering about the time.
Get in there, Sven.
On that Herald buff. There's a little bit of support coming from TSM, moving towards the mid lane, and nobody from G2's reacted just yet.
Yeah, well, as soon as they see Kog'Maw in the bottom lane, I think they place
the turret in the
middle. So they're much faster than G2. Here it comes. They're going to power this turret down and maybe get 2, but most likely not. I think they're going to let the Rift Herald finish it off, and Bjergsen will get the solo gold, maybe?
Well, single charge, scatter the weak stun, tags Bjergsen, but no further follow-up. He's starting to stack some armor as well. That little Herald goes down. Look at the back end. Double Lift going for the solo kill. Not going to be enough just yet, but almost takes down Sven. Sven gets a small win and holds on to his flash, something that I'm going to keep an eye on.
Both top laners actually canceled TP after they were maybe looking to join a fight, but now if you're G2 Esports, all your lanes are going to get pushed down. You are against global compositions on the side of TSM, and it gets really hard then to actually push out your lanes and fight for vision. So it should be a TSM-controlled map with Baron also spawning.
Yeah, that's the big thing that TSM needs to be able to do. They have the advantage. They're up 3 turrets to 1. They also have the big goal lead, and they have large amounts of initiation. This is the proving point for TSM, because they actually had pretty similar advantages to these at MSI in a game that could have actually clinched them, the bracket stage, but they failed to convert against G2, because I do feel like G2 is actually very good in these situations, where TSM, not so much.
Well, we have to see if history repeats itself, whether or not G2 can find a way to claw themselves back into the game, because it was reliant on Team SoloMid making those mistakes. And what's really exciting is you very rarely get to see 2 teams play against one another in such a short space of time. North America versus Europe. Jat, you've talked a lot about the 7-1 record of NA teams versus EU teams in terms of the group stage, the non-important games, as it were.
I looked into that specifically. Yeah. So basically the last year...
MSI and World.
Yeah. So last year, you know, we had 2016, 2017, 7-1 North America. Doesn't count for Rift Rivals, because 4 of those wins are CLG beating G2, and we all know that CLG is G2's kryptonite. And CLG is not here, so that doesn't count. Then there was the TSM 2-0 over Splice. Do you see Splice and Rift Rivals?
Splice isn't here.
No, Splice, they're not here. So technically, EU versus NA at Rift Rivals is 1-1.
Of the teams that are here.
Of the teams here. I think everyone, North American, European fans, can agree it's just 1-1 between the regions. We all even.
And also, look at TSM, since I believe 2011, all of their games against EU, 31-31. It's kind of crazy how close the wins and losses are between the two.
I wanted you to fight me at that point. I'd be like, no, North America!
There's nothing to fight. You laid out a well-reasoned argument, Officio. Congratulations.
I do want to give a shout out to CLG and the 4-0 though. That was actually very impressive.
It was indeed. G2 started this split with the mini vacation and they're still struggling for it. Here comes Perks with a scatter the weak. Unleashed power comes up. Mithy forced to flash defensively. Nobody on TSM is at risk, but Perks is. Cleanse comes down and the bomb's not going to be enough to kill him. Yet again, nobody dies.
That's a big win for G2, though. They still keep the flash on Kog'Maw. Yeah, they had to burn it on their support, but he's cannon fodder in the later game fights, and Expect didn't even have to leave the lane, so I think TSM potentially loses pressure off of that one because they used all their ultimates.
I actually wondered if TSM could have started Baron right there because Perks was so low and had to go back to base while TPs were up on the side of TSM, but they didn't start it. They're still baiting around. Remember, Trick here is very valuable on the Rex side to see if anyone is moving around.
Tongue lash, but no further follow-up. A Winter's Bite comes down from Mithy as he puts up the Unbreakable. Sven trying to fire the Bioarcane Barrage with that Blade of the Ruined King. And as it stands, the tension continues to build. G2 looking to re-engage. The Unburrow gets 2. There's a body slam as well. Perks of Scatter the Weak, not the greatest. And the taunt only catches Expect. This is good for G2 Esports. Mithy's the target as the Unbreakable blocks some damage. And Sven takes down Hornsa. It's MSI all over again.
Yeah, doesn't this feel rather familiar? TSM has a big lead,
but it's almost too early.
Are not even that big of a thing. Sven already able to stay safe behind that big, beefy front line we talked about. The Gragas and the Braum, keeping them so safe. 2 early kills on a Sven, and pretty lackluster initiation attempts by TSM.
And what happened just before the fight was Expect, who was sitting bot lane, you know, had the little engage, he didn't have TP ready, he got to push out the bot lane, he walked all the way up to the Baron, while Hansa then showed up in bot lane. So G2 knew, we got about 4.5 seconds right now to engage a fight, Hansa won't be here in time, and that's why with the Righteous Glory Gragas, he's going aggressive, because look at the minimap, Jarvan is bottom lane, and this is where G2 feels confident, starting the fight, get a small advantage, and now with Hansa joining, the HP is slightly in favor of G2, and it's only G2's front line getting hit.
Yep. Exactly. These initiations where TSM is not making it to the Syndra or the Kog'Maw are fool's errands. They're not going to win those fights if they're initiating on the G2 tank, so it's rather difficult for them when they're down their ultimates to not make those plays. I commend G2 for making that initiation while the Jarvan wasn't there, and also knowing the TSM was out there big initiation ultimates.
Oh, double lift! Nice.
Oh, double lift's in so much trouble. Devour buys some time. He stays alive. The Prey Seeker's body blocked, but they managed to escape.
And so, Double have learned, you shouldn't use your Tristana jump away from a Gragas, because he will get interrupted in the air.
Gentlemen, Doublelift lost his flash. Sven, in all of these exchanges, has held onto it and still holds onto it as a second Cloud Drake is picked up. Bring North America to Europe and all you get is Cloud Drakes.
Love it.
That's actually a great point. We normally get a lot of Infernals here. Suddenly, Jad is casting with us, double Cloud for G2. But again, this is why we talked about this in Champs League of how TSM's like mid-game should be really good and where they can really start snowballing, because late game against all these, you know, frontline tanks and then the hyper carry from Sven, it gets harder and harder to win fights unless you can get proper flanks.
Yeah, and G2 is playing a style that is generally forcing TSM to make the right initiation. When is the last time we saw G2 on TSM's side of the map? It just actually hasn't happened. They have 3 blue trinkets, so whenever TSM goes for Baron, they pop another one down, as we see right there, and they force TSM into a decision. Now, though, Haunts are on ward. They know that they're baiting for a fight. Let's see it.
Also gets tagged up. Sorry to Fishers, he is caught to the Unbarrow. The Voidooz buys a couple seconds of time as the hero's entrance comes down. Trick is the target, 300 HP. Great Cataclysm from Hornsa. Sven with the flash manages to escape. Perks takes down Sven Skerrin. Bjergsen trying to get onto Sven. Mithy's on the front line with the help of Expect, and everybody from TSM is low. Winds of War tagging on Sven, but he's unkillable. That's a double kill for Perks. Looking for more from TSM, and the gold lead matters not.
TSM have not been able to use a Jarvan engaged right into a good Galio ulti that actually hits the back line of G2. This one was used on Trick specifically, so while Sven had to use his flash to get out of the Jarvan ulti, he was then safe right after.
Gentlemen, this is where Team SoloMid activate post-traumatic stress disorder. 26 minutes in, and G2 with a great Baron react.
Yeah, Haunts are using his Flag and Drake on the Rex side, and then what is that Galio ultimate? It's used way too early. You need to use that on the Cataclysm. Textbook use of this team composition. and it allows Perkz and Sven, in this case, to kind of free hit the back of the fight. Bjergsen's stuck there. You can see Doublelift doesn't have a last whisper yet, so he can't cut through Expect. And yes, the 3,000 gold lead doesn't mean anything when the fights are playing out in this way, and G2 using their team fighting skills much better than TSM.
So, G2, they were down 5k gold a little while ago. Look at the team fight damage from that previous fight. It's G2 that come away with all of the advantages. As that pops away, gentlemen, I want you to look at the itemization. Goggles, Stoneplate picked up by Trick with the Cinder Hulk. Some changes to that Rek'Sai build. Righteous Glory, Spirit's Visage on the side of Expect. And the Rage Blade for Sven. A lot of traditional itemization on the side of TSM so far.
The thing about Rage Blade as an item is it's absolutely fantastic. If you always have targets right in front of you, you can hit. If you can just stand there and shoot, it's great, because obviously need some time to stack up. Expect going in aggressively, did not see Bifrost, I think, around the corner. There was no ward from G2 in that brush, and ended up using his flash for nothing, basically.
Yeah, did not account for the Tahm Kench, but I did like the thought of the initiation, seeing that both TSM soul laners were trying to set up the 1-3-1 to get wave control for the Baron.
And I really think this is the moment for TSM, despite losing some fights, to actually then take the Baron and get back in this game, because there's no TP on Expect, there's no flash on him, so he's not going to be that useful on the map and actually at starting a fight. Doublelift just completed 3 full items, so he has the double Zeal now. This is the moment for TSM to actually get that big objective.
I completely agree, because the shielding and protection items will be coming through from G2, but they're not there yet. You can see the components for Knight's Vow and Mythy. That's guaranteed going on Sven, and there's still no locket completed on anyone for G2, so TSM should force here, and G2 has to answer. If they fight, watch to see if Sven gets jumped on.
Oh, that's what I'm looking for. There's the fight. Broom comes up, Perkz is the target. He used the flash earlier. TSM with all the tools available. Easily take down Perkz. It's a 4-on-5. TSM still maintain control.
Yeah, Sven Skaren has no flash. They use the majority of their initiation. It's going to be much harder for them to re-engage this next time.
All right, Baron, 6,000 HP. It's not going very low. Doublelift trying his best to get those autos down. 4,000 HP. Knock up onto Bjergsen as he is now thinking about turning. Trick's going in onto the front line. Trick's the target. 2,000 HP. Barrel from Expect splits up TSM and Mythy's blocking what he can. Sven remains untouched. He's got Bjergsen. The Devour comes out. Now Biofrost is stunned. Needs to pop the Grey Health. Bjergsen running for his life. Crucially for the EU LCS, Baron is interrupted.
G2 playing that extremely well, just staying outside, letting TSM take a lot of damage from the Baron. You could see since Skaren was standing in the back because he couldn't actually get close enough due to low HP. Now, TSM are still staying around with a few guys, and they're actually TPing in right now.
Yeah, they want this fight.
Expect with a good barrel. That's going to slow down Haunter. No Cataclysm available, and Bjergsen teleports as well. That's a double dip for TSM.
Get Kobe in here to yell his famous little line.
And Perkz is already back on the map, pushing through the mid lane. G2 knocked over only their second tower as we approach 30 minutes.
Oh, TSM, why would you just try it all in with double TP right there? You could still have used it to try and get some push in the side lanes into your Baron setup. Right now, flashes will be ready for next fight for G2 Esports, unless the fight happens in like another 10-15 seconds. And TSM, they are still around that one objective they've been going for, the Baron itself.
Yeah, and we're still in the midst of this window, but G2 is playing around it very, very well. I love the fact that they know TSM can't kill Baron quickly, but now they...
Oh, it's happening!
The flash, Sven is the target, not going to be able to escape this time round, but the knockback is bought time! Sven is taken down by Haunter and Bjergsen as they double up. Defensive moves from the rest of G2. Knock up under the tower. Perkz manages to cleanse him till Sven Skaren gets that venomous bite. Resets from Doublelift. Rocket jump into flash. Trick is the target. Red buff bursting away as he rocket jumps back to safety.
They got the fight just in time. They had a few seconds left before flashes from Perkz and Sven would be ready. They instantly engaged with G2 walking up that mid lane. Haunter and Bjergsen with the synergy this time around. They actually win the fight. They get the Baron.
I don't know how it took them so long. It's very simple. You use the Jarvan ult on the Kog'Maw and Galio ults after. You're done. Then you win the fight. It took them 31 minutes to do it, but they finally do it and they get the Baron.
It's a marathon, Jad, not a sprint here. You know, you can take your time as long as you get the Baron.
TSM versus G2 is always a marathon. As we saw just a few months ago, they'll get their hands on their second Drake, Ocean, and then Infernal. That'll set them up for Elder as well.
The funny thing is, it's a marathon for all the wrong reasons. Because it's G2 getting outplayed in the early game by TSM consistently, and then it's TSM struggling to get that big advantage to really say, now we can try and close out the game. This took them 30 minutes to get a fight like this here. No flash on Sven. They get onto him with everything. And G2 Esports were most likely saying, like, we got a few seconds left on the flashes. Don't fight, don't fight. And then they see the Jarvan fly over the wall, and suddenly they lose the fight.
Yeah, to Sven's credit, he hasn't been giving TSM many opportunities, which is why they've been using it on some other people. Still think they should have done it a little bit earlier, because now I do feel like the game is at a breaking point. Looking at the way that the Galio and the Jarvan build, you see the Titanic Hydra and the Black Cleaver from Jarvan, and then tank items. And you only see tank items from the Galio. That fight had the Knight's Vow on Sven from Mithy, and you saw how long it took for them to kill Sven. His health pool will only increase, and this fight they have a Gargoyle Stone Plate, lock it on Trick. If he uses both of those, it is a 2,000 health shield onto Sven. So that dive might not work again now the defensive items have been built by G2.
Well, let's see how effective Team SoloMid are with their first Baron buff. Scat of the Week comes out onto Bjergsen. And this is only the first battle here at Rift Rivals. Quick reminder of the format for everybody watching. It is a double round robin best of one group stage. So NA will play all EU teams. They'll do that twice. And the #1 ranked NA team will face off against the #1 ranked EU team from this group stage in a best of 5 on Saturday. Let's get back to the action. As expect, is forced to flash away. Flash economics has proven to be very valuable and important this game. And TSM, they're looking to take another tower. Expect and Trick gonna come in for some sort of re-engage. Hero's entrance comes down. G2 need to tunnel away to safety.
It's everything burned though.
It does look like it. Bjergsen tries to Justice Punch. Rest of TSM backing away. Doublelift's not here. Doublelift is pushing the mid lane. Bjergsen's at threat. Gets the Duran down.
Oh, Biofrost!
By some time, and Biofrost, baby, saves TSM.
That play all started with Biofrost going bot lane with his ulti while Doublelift was pushing mid lane. So this is why Doublelift now picked up 2 towers. Opens up the mid lane, and this bot lane tower needs 1 hit from TSM to go down.
And this is the forward-thinking shot calling that was not present at MSI that allowed G2 to win a game, almost win both. This time around, TSM accelerate that gold lead. It's just shy of 9,000 gold. They've got 6 towers. That's an exceptional Baron power play in terms of map control and pressure.
We talked earlier about Doublelift getting a double Zeal item completed. There's a Last Whisper in it, also upgraded now. So suddenly, this Tristana, while of course she's still hitting just tanks right in front of her, her damage is very, very legit. And
yeah,
Sven, of course, is at a good point with the Rage Blade, but he's actually he's a full item behind. And he's kind of alone as well on hitting the front line of TSM.
Exactly, 3-item Kog'Maw, but it's a 4-item Jarvan and a 4-item Galio that Sven has to shred through while they're diving him. So TSM still at a much stronger point right here. I want Sven to still be completing more items. And that last fight you got to see in a 4v5 how long Bjergsen was able to just sit and take all of the damage. So that's another thing G2 has to fight up against.
Pretty heavily itemized into Sven's damage there with Randuin's Omen, Frozen Heart, and the Gargoyle's Stone Plate. Haunts has got a Gargoyles of his own and the Thornmail. Cocoon will cost Mithy his life.
There's the Triss damage coming through finally.
Really easily set up by TSM on the invade. This is not your jungle anymore, G2. TSM have invaded and they've got control.
Yeah, and this is a little bit better than the MSI game from TSM, but we know TSM versus G2 is never over until the Nexus actually reaches 0 health. They have been so back and forth in the 2 games they played this year.
And on screen, Inhibitor falls as TSM's Baron has worn off a little while ago. Got themselves some pressure on the bottom lane. Another good Cocoon from Svenskeren, and he's finding his targets. Nearly 100% kill participation. Shows you just how much this game has revolved around the team play. Scat of the Week comes out. Perkz does not pull the trigger on the Unleashed Power.
But they did use that Baron to get a massive gold advantage, and more importantly, open that mid lane as well with the inhib. They're going for another tower. So that's the fight.
Scat of the Week comes out. I'm looking for Expect's Barrel to split up TSM. There it is. Biofrost is on the front line, but Doublelift remains unkilled. Sven is untouched. Perkz has got one. That was a 3 or 4 man stun. Bjergsen's a target of Sven, while the rest of G2 tried to get TSM. This will buy some time as Bjergsen maintains his life for a few seconds longer. Doublelift flashes forward for the kill, but flash economics means if another fight breaks out, he needs to be extra careful.
Yeah, Trick's a little more mobile than Kog'Maw, still has the rocket jumps. Trick got a little bit ambitious at the end of that fight. Rek'Sai ulting to chase onto double lift while the rest of G2 was dealing with Bjergsen and a re-engage.
What? Horn's gonna go down. That flag and drag was just sad.
A few questionable flag and drags.
Quicker back to base so you can buy items. See, he wanted that BF sword so badly.
You can see a little bit of a facepalm on the play cam as well. Haunter knows that wasn't his best of decision. But you know what? Trick said, I'll re-engage. Haunter figured he should have a shot too.
Yeah, and TSM here definitely overstayed. They wanted to get the turret without the Baron buff, so what happened is Double took a lot of damage on the back end of the fight, but then was only at about 25% health, so can never really fully engage. And some massive stuns came through from Perkz, the extended team fight after ulting, getting the multi-ball stun.
Also, Mithy finding his way just in front of Double Lift, standing there, put up his shield. You know, at this point, Braum is actually fairly tanky because he's able to build things like Knight's Vow. He's now going towards Locket as well. So it is actually pretty hard to kill Mithy quickly, and he's able to just stand right there in front of Double Lift, making sure he does no damage. This,
what do you think Haunter's thinking? Yeah.
He's thinking triple kill, but it's just not going to happen. He had the blast cone right there for a free escape. Double Lift and Svenskar, and maybe thought they'd be able to take the 3 and 3, but Elder Drake going down right now, and TSM has to fight it.
All right, teleport's coming in from behind the pit. It's Haunter with Cataclysm available. This is going to be massive. Interrupted. Locks down Sven. Sven decides to flash away as a knockup comes down. Justice Punch kind of interrupted by Bjergsen. Sven is life-stealing the best that he can. Perkz is holding onto that unleashed power while Double Lift kept the Elder Dragon engaged.
They're just going to go for this. They have 2 Drakes right now, and they know they got G2 very slow. That was a hard reset, but G2 completely abandoned him.
We give it over to TSM after engage coming in from Haunter from the side right there. That forced 2 flashes once again from the carries on G2 Esports. So that's kind of the fun thing about this game here is the first fight you take, as long as you get flashes, that's almost a win in itself for the next one, and they're actually going straight for Baron.
Yeah, they do not have a control ward. They're sweeping their approach, but they do not see that ward in the back. So G2 knows it's there, but Trick is on the wrong side of the map. This is Baron too.
Yeah, easily secured. Despite Expect having teleports, TSM get Elder Dragon and Baron on the same buff.
I'm going to keep saying it, but we've seen this before.
You're always prepping them excuses right there.
Yeah. It's happened twice in a row where they've had 10,000 gold leads against G2. They have felled the inhibitor, and they do have initiations with a Kog'Maw who is flashless. So they need to continue to push potentially on this set of double buffs, because this only comes around every so often. Elder Drake's every 10 minutes, Baron's every 6. Very rarely do you get both at the same time and a 10,000 gold lead.
But after we've now seen them actually combine the Jarvan engage with the Galio ulti, no flash on the side of Perkz and Sven as well, like, it should be enough for TSM to walk down and actually win this game. Double Lift as well, 5 fully completed items, so it's not like you have a weak late game AD carry by any means. As long as you keep Sven busy in the back line, Double Lift will, with some time, take down the front line of G2 as well.
Well, Double Lift 503 by the way, and he's going to have some front line of his own. Haunter's got that GA completed, and Bjergsen's working towards another armor item. So unkillable front line for TSM.
Yeah. They have 45 seconds left on this Elder Drake. They have a Baron buff wave with the cannon, but they're also not grouped to push with that wave. They should actually be all hitting on this wave. They're going to get it at least, and now maybe cycle the second and third inhibitors down, because they got a wave on the top side as well.
Yeah, you almost have to wait for the Elder Drake buff to expire before you can really do anything as G2 Esports. But it sucks to see, of course, that bot lane in him go down so quickly. Means now the top lane suddenly is the next focus. Big minion wave on the way from TSM as well. They're getting everything.
And that mid inhibitor's just about to respawn. It's a few seconds away. G2 will at least no longer have to deal with Elder in just a few more seconds, likely as this wave is crashing into the tower. Looking at the minimap though, guys, Haunter trying to set up on the flank. He's got flash available to him and can look for another Cataclysm in the river. It was so impactful. Instead, Haunter's just going to walk right in. Flag and drag for the engage. Gets it down onto Perkz and Sven. Heroic entrance. This has to be the game. Svenskar is a target. How is Sven not dead? The time's coming down. Sven stays alive. The stun comes down, and finally, Sven and Perkz are killed. The North American LCS are taking down EU. Expect and Trick are running for their lives. Believe me, G2, this game is over.
41 minutes in, they get the initiation once again on Sven. Deficio, we talked a lot about what they should do. Well, they did it. They pulled off the initiation.
And that's why they're winning.
That's going to be the game.
The Nexus turrets are falling as Double Lift hops forward, unkilled, untouched, and unthreatened Team SoloMid strike first in Rift Rivals 2017.
Gotta feel slightly satisfying for TSM. It's no MSI victory, but they still, as Deficio, as Quickshot said, strike first here at MSI. With the Galio, with double lift on a hyper carry, stalled out a little bit in the mid to late game against G2, but they do take him down.
Yeah,